Hi everybody, I'm Bryan Mudd, a fan of South Plains politics. Here's your talking points for this week. How the Supreme Court managed to throw monkey wrenches into the hopes of Texas Democrats and the Trump White House all on the same day. And none of us are thinking about costs or insurance coverage in the middle of a serious medical emergency, but we're wondering why the governor wasn't thinking about them either.
From the studios of KMAC Television in Lubbock, your local election headquarters. This is Talking Points with Bryan Mudd, sponsored by Capital Mortgage Services.
And thanks for joining us, everybody. Also this week, who knows best? A statement made by lawmakers in the last legislative session was that the state leaders were in charge here. They told local governments to limit their tax growth and even laid down the law on local building regulations. You may not care about the whole corrugated stainless steel gas pipe thing, but Lubbock city leaders thought they were dangerous enough to ban their use, even when faced with a lawsuit. State leaders, however, thought actions like Lubbock's were an overreach of authority, and a new law forced the city council to reluctantly repeal that ban this week. KMAC's Avery Travis has a closer look.
Yeah, with the laws changing, that lawsuit will be thrown out. The company who filed it, OmegaFlex, telling us in part today, after years of combating misinformation propagated largely by competitors who were looking to establish their monopolies, we're pleased that the truth has finally won out. They maintain their product is safe, but local leaders say they're frustrated with how everything turned out.
If you're building a home or buying a home, I think it's a fair question to ask.
What's in your walls? Your attic? Becky Teal's been asking these questions for nearly 7 years.
To raise the standard of safety.
Since her son Brennan was killed in a fire that the fire marshals say was caused by a lightning strike and a type of gas tubing called CSS Tee.
They aren't as safe as we want them to be.
Leading the city of Lubbock to ask questions too.
They investigated the issue thoroughly.
Steve O'Neill was the chief building official when council ultimately banned types of the tubing. Until this legislative session, when the governor signed House Bill 2439 into law.
That's a big loss. It really is.
It says city governments can't do what Lubbock did, ban a building material that meets national safety codes.
We now will not have the ability in many ways to come back in and customize our codes for our own unique hazards.
Steve O'Neill and Becky spoke out against it, arguing Lubbock homeowners are more at risk for a dangerous lightning strike and fire than other Texans. And on the other side, organizations saying they promote the use of materials that meet those national standards to ensure vendors can't dictate the materials used across the state. And even our Lubbock lawmakers voting yes. We've reached out to them. One passed on an interview and one never returned our calls.
For whatever reason, the legislature feels like it's safe, and they trump us.
The mayor says it's frustrating, but their hands are tied, leaving homeowners to do their own homework.
Ask your contractor what they're using.
They're going to worry about their fit and finish. The homeowner has a right to assume that those types of things are safe, and they will never think about it.
Brennan's mom, Becky, says she's deeply thankful for the city of Lubbock's commitment to safety, but that the, quote, commerce of big business was heard above the average resident. She agrees with the mayor that knowledge about the issue will protect homeowners. We have her full statement up on our website right now.
All right, Avery, thank you so much. Lubbock Chamber of Commerce also works, to make sure that governments at all levels don't overreach and act in support of our economic interest, of course. And Kyle Jacobson here's a big part of that. He's the Chamber's Director of Governmental Relations. It's good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Let me ask first, just to give folks a little bit of context here, tell me about your background and what you do on a day-in, day-out basis for the Chamber.
Sure. I've been with the Chamber about 3 years now. Like you said, Director of Government Relations, and we pride ourselves on being the voice of business. And so that means we meet with a lot of our members and try to understand and represent their values when it comes to the public policy process.
Sure. Now, do you and the others at the Chamber, do you go to Austin and Washington when the situations come up to advocate for certain issues there?
We do. Throughout the year, we'll have meetings in Austin and D.C. with elected officials and try to be the voice at the Capitol, nation's capital and state capitol, for our members back here in Lubbock.
Yeah. Are you talking to the people we know, say in Washington, Jody Arrington, or whoever, sure, or is it all kinds of folks?
No, yeah, we try to make the rounds. Anytime we're in D.C., we try to see our own Congressman Arrington, and then neighboring, so Thornberry, Conway, and our senators Cornyn and Cruz. And
what's been some recent priorities if you've gone up there?
Yeah, we actually we were up there in May to actually advocate for a national veteran cemetery to be located in Lubbock, and so in addition to those elected officials, we met with some officials at the Veterans Administration and try to get the ball rolling on that.
That's been a big deal. A lot of folks have been behind that for a while. That'd
Yes,
be a
sir.
neat deal. You know, with all that in mind now, I know the Chamber has signed on to a letter recently, along with dozens of other organizations all over the country, urging leaders in the House and Senate to get behind this USMCA, which is the new North American Trade Agreement. Talk about the decision to do that and what it would mean for folks here to get that new trade agreement done.
Yeah, well, so for some context to just how important trade is to the state of Texas, it's estimated that right now trade supports close to 1 million jobs in the Lone Star State. And so we need to have, strong trade relations with our neighbors here in North America. And the state of Texas is the #1 exporter among the 50 states to Mexico, and we're #2 only behind the state of Michigan to Canada. And I think just shy of half of our total exports are with our North American partners, and so it's critical that we have good trade relations with them. And so, like you said, we signed on with over 100 business and trade organizations to this letter urging Congress to act on this.
All right, so any idea if that might be coming down the pipe soon here? Are we finally going to get some deals rolling? Because a lot of people have been waiting on this, especially a lot of people who work in a lot of import and export situations.
I think probably fall is more likely than summer, especially with the recess coming up. There's still some negotiating going on, and so I'd be surprised if it were finalized this summer, but hopefully in the fall we'll see that approved.
You know, this summer there's still a lot to do, and we like to encourage folks to get involved, run for elected office if at all possible. And I know the Chamber has the big Civic and Public Leadership Academy coming up to help with that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the Chamber started this program a little over a decade ago, like you said, to encourage people to get involved and run for office. And if you've never done that before, it can obviously be kind of an intimidating first step to take. So we just try to provide them with the nuts and bolts of what it's actually like to get out there and run for office. So we do everything from, media training. If you're not used to interviews like this, it might be a little bit intimidating. The legal aspects of putting your name on the ballot and campaign strategy. So it's nonpartisan in nature, but like you said, we just kind of want to get more people involved in that process and encourage people who might be interested to run for office.
Yeah, just knowing how the paperwork goes and the campaign finance, all the rules you have to follow there, it's got to be intimidating for a lot of folks.
Right, yeah, and people don't understand sometimes that, to file to run for a city office, let's say, you've got to put your home address and phone number out there, and, it's public record, and so just making people aware of things like that in the process. And so that's kind of another thing, if you've got a colleague or spouse, somebody who thinks they want to run for office, and sometimes this can be an eye-opening thing and make them realize it might not be the right time to run for office, and that's okay too. The more informed everybody is, the better. Is
there a cost for this, and how do people sort of set that up?
Yeah, it's $25 for Chamber members. If you're not a member with us, it's $35, but it's almost a full-day program. We'll go from about 11 to 5 o'clock.
And you're bringing a lot of experts in to talk about some of these things.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we'll have people that work with polling data, media training, city administrators, and then we'll hear from elected officials themselves on what it was like their first time to run for office. And another thing I want to add real quick, if running for office isn't maybe the way you want to get involved, we've also added a portion about serving on city boards and commissions and things like that. And so if you want to give back to the community and get involved, but running for office isn't necessarily your thing, you can learn more about that as well.
That's so important because there's so many, especially with the city, there's so many just citizen positions on these that never hardly seems to get filled, or they're always running out of, there's not enough people to fill up the spaces.
Right. I think they're always trying to, add appointments to that, and there's a wide variety, electric utility board, comprehensive planning and zoning. So there's something for everybody if you take a hard enough look at it.
Kyle Jacobson with the Chamber. Go talk to him and everybody else down there and get involved a little bit. Good to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hey, let's do this week's poll question. This was brought up several times in the Democratic presidential debates. We want to know, do you consider health care to be a human right? Talk to us on our KMAC News Facebook page and on everythinglubbock.com. Click on Talking Points and give us your opinion. Coming up, a yes vote on the next step of the Tech Vet School process. And we'll spend 5 good minutes with a man who had an unusually up-close look at all the history made in all 8 years of the Bush 43 White House.